The Nashville Predators lost Roman Josi. The Nashville Predators lost to the Calgary Flames. The Nashville Predators tied a franchise record with an 8-game losing streak. And if you think that means Andrew Brunette is gone, well, guess again.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this post-game recap episode, welcoming any first-time listeners, and of course, giving a shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers. We appreciate your support, and we love sitting here digesting and dissecting this Nashville Predators team together. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, Emma and I were there live to see it, and friends, the Predators tied a franchise record last night, losing their 8th in a row. Yeah, good times. We're going to break down that Calgary Flames 4-3 loss. We're going to talk about some of the positives and some of the negatives from this lineup. And friends, if you were thinking you were going to wake up this morning and Nashville was going to have a new hockey coach, well, you're probably pretty wrong. We're going to tell you what Barry Trotz has had to say about the whole fire Andrew Brunette saga. We're going to tell you how much we buy into his reasoning as well. Before we dive into all of that, do want to let you know today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Emma, I had a good feeling. I felt good. I think it was just gas because the Nashville Predators lost 4-3 to the Calgary Flames. And I'm not joking. Like, I was sitting there chatting with Russell, who was next to me, and I was like, this almost feels fun. The first period felt kind of fun. The second period felt a little bit less fun. The third period, the second half of the third period, I was like, oh, it's getting interesting. And then the sound of failure, the puck off the post, it is the most haunting sound. It's just, I'm like, that's what it sounded like when Titanic sank. Okay. That's what it sounded like when the Hindenburg caught fire. No, it's just the Nashville Predators couldn't tie it up, and they lost 4-3 in regulation. Upside, they scored 3 goals. How about that, Emma? It was a windfall of offense, ladies and gentlemen. But they couldn't get the win. Of course, we always kick off our recaps with one word to describe the game. And if you've been around a while, you know Emma and I, like, we use as many words as we want to because we're the boss of us. So, Emma, how would you sum up this Calgary Flames loss, this franchise record-tying 8th in a row loss?
I said this to you at the game, Ann, and I'm going to say it again. I can't believe you're turning me into the optimist here on the show. I don't know how that happened because I'm usually very doom and gloom. But I guess my one word would be optimistic. I'll be honest, because yes, look, I understand it was a loss, and we, Predators fans are in no position to be settling for moral victories at this point. Totally get it. Moral victory doesn't get you points in the standings, and they need the points. So, but I think, like, if you were looking for a better performance, you look for a team that looks more connected and looks more like what we all thought they would be. I think that we saw that for most of the Calgary game. It was that, like you said, that first period was fun. It was fun.
It was so great.
There were all 3 goals. Well, not all 3 goals were scored in the first period, but all 3 of the goals that Nashville had were the result of just brilliant passing plays and exactly the kind of stuff that you would expect to see from this roster. When you go out and get guys like Stamkos and Marchessault and add them to this roster, and you see, what we saw against Calgary, it's like, yes, that's what this was supposed to be. That this high skill, high octane offense, these beautiful pass plays off the rush. And it just, guys looked a lot more in sync. They looked more like they were trusting each other and they were trusting the system. And it was just, it was fun. It was fun to watch. And, I think at the end of the day, yes, the end result wasn't there. And it by no means was it perfect. But I, for one, I think that they can come away from that effort feeling pretty good.
Yeah. I thought Andrew Brunette had some interesting comments after the game, and we'll get into the specific players he was referring to, but he was like, I want I want some players to come away feeling good. And this was a game where I feel like there were players that could come away from this game feeling good. We have heard him talk about, you want to walk away from these games and say, hey, here are some things we can build on. The truth is, we have not seen goals scored like that much of this season at all. We haven't seen goals scored much of this season, but especially goals like that. So I agree with you. At 5 on 5, I was like, people, dear God, they're all out there.
They're all there. Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. My one word, and this is one I'm not gonna lie, I've used this one before, but it is so fitting, and it's also one of my tattoos. And it is from Billy Elliot, the musical, one of my favorite musicals. It's the musical I have seen the most often. We won't talk about the specific number of times because then I start being called a stalker and that feels uncomfortable. But in one of the songs, Billy is asked, and if you don't know the story of Billy Elliot, it's a boy in this mining town who accidentally ends up doing ballet and he loves it and he's just profoundly gifted and it's just a great. But anyway, he is asked, how does it feel when you're dancing? And he says, I can't really explain it. I haven't got the words. Now, that's my one word. I can't really explain it. I haven't got the words because this team is inexplicably talented and inexplicably unable to win games. But I agree with you. And I love that I'm rubbing off on you. I feel I haven't been a good influence on people for so long, Emma. It just feels so nice.
Well, listen, I believe it was Maya Angelou who said that, and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, so I apologize, but something to the effect of like, people won't always remember what you say to them, but they'll remember how you make them feel. And I just think about how I felt during that game, and I felt very different. This game felt different to me, and maybe that kind of ties into what you're saying. Don't quite have the words, but I mean, I was much more encouraged by what I saw, and I think that much more so than any of the previous 7 losses. Again, still not enough. They didn't win.
Correct.
Still not enough. They got back to their game and putting more pressure on Calgary really in the second half of the third period. But at that point, a little bit too late. But again, even when they fell behind, I mean, they took the lead. Nashville took the lead in this game 3 different times. I mean, that's huge for a team where the wheels just tend to fall off at the first sign of a challenge.
Yes.
This was a huge step forward, I think.
Yes, I would agree with you. And I know you all want us to, there's a subset of the fan base that all they want is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Look, this season sucks. Look, this season is below expectation, but you also have to look at growth. And we're going to have a whole conversation later on in the show. So if you're annoyed as fire at us right now with our takes, you should stick around. It's going to be great. We, of course, ask our Locked On Predators insiders for their one word. We chit-chat with them throughout the game. And man, did we got some bangers. We got some bangers. One word, Dustin's one word is realization. And he wants bonus points because it is one word. When you can't figure out why your hockey team keeps losing to the worst teams in hockey, then you realize it's because your team is the worst team in hockey. Okay, it's not as optimistic or optimistic as Emma was, but I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, it's fair. It's fair for what we've been through up until this point. I'll allow it. Yeah, that's fair.
Dustin's not wrong. I love this one word. This is from Benjamin. His one word is "and?" ? Yeah. Uh-huh. Here is perhaps, and I don't toss this out lightly, perhaps one of the best one words. This is top 5 one words in the history of one words, and it comes from our insider Henry. He says, my one word, Dallas. I feel like our only chance is to lose 9-2 on Thursday, then go on an 18-game point streak. Henry, like, nailed it. Nailed it. Look, a lot happened in this Calgary Flames game that we do have to talk about. The Nashville Predators lost probably their most important player in this game. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to tell you what we liked from some of these line combinations and maybe where some of these line combinations still fell short. We're going to do that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle some NFL action with FanDuel. It is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, you and I know, 8-game losing streak ties a franchise record. Who knows what might happen Thursday against Dallas, y'all? Woo. Could be new record-setting night. Might not be. Look, there were some positive things in this game. But Emma, let's talk about the one thing that is a huge negative, and that is that after the first period, we did not see Roman Josi back on the ice. For anybody who is wondering about any inside information we get, here's the inside information we got post-game. We have no updates on Roman Josi. We don't know if it is injury. We don't know if it's illness. Gus Nyquist was not in the lineup last night due to illness. What that means is that Ann Kimmel stunk up the media room with her Purell because let me tell you something. I raised 3 kids, but I don't do puke. So if there is a stomach bug going around in that locker room, Emma is going to be your source for all things Nashville Predators until I feel safe again. Because I don't puke.
That's assuming that I do puke, which I can assure you I do not.
Really? See, let me totally off hockey topic, but just this is friendly life advice. If you are going to partner up with somebody in life, you have got to have 2 different people. You have to have somebody who does puke and somebody who does blood. I do blood and broken bones. My husband lived at a fraternity house, so he does puke like it's nothing. So that's how we stayed married 25 years.
I don't do puke or broken bones, but I can do blood. I can handle blood.
Yeah.
But just like once bones are sticking out or limbs are pointing in directions they shouldn't, I'm out.
Yeah. I'm fine with that as long as they don't barf. I'm really fine. Like, I'm great with that. Just
now that we've got that,
now that we've had
established.
that, and I'm not confirming that Gus Nyquist is barfing. I'm just telling you he was out with illness, and we take no chances in my sphere. So if you smelled something very, very fragrant at Bridgestone last night, that was my Purell. Roman Josi out. Don't know why. Missed the second period, missed the third period. If you want to know how valuable Roman Josi is to this team, remove him from 2 periods of a hockey game. Now, having said that, I think defensively, this was an opportunity. This was a high pressure situation for some young players. Again, Mark Delgaiso returned to the lineup after being a healthy scratch since the game against New Jersey, where UC Saros played well and everybody else didn't. But look at Mark Delgaiso being healthy scratched. He was back in the lineup. Of course, we had Adam Wilsby and Blankenberg, Mr. Blankenberg. Still can't remember his first name. Nick. Why is that so hard for me? Mr. Blankenberg was in there. Luke Shen and Brady Shea. And so the second and third period, it was a rotation of those defensemen. And really, Emma, all things considered, a tough assignment without Roman Josi. And I felt like, especially the younger guys did a fairly good job stepping in and kind of keeping things somewhat under control defensively.
Yeah, it is a tough ask. I mean, Andrew Brunette said it post game, you don't replace Roman Josi. You just
Impossible.
don't. And so, and especially for something to happen mid game like that, you have guys out there. It's kind of funny. I mean, not haha funny, but it's ironic because normally, if you have a defenseman who goes down in the middle of a game, you have one of your top defensemen start double shifting. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, Roman's usually the guy who's double shifting when someone gets hurt, and now he's hurt. Oh no, what are they going to do? And so, I mean, the next obvious choice there is Brady Shea, but it's hard because Roman can play both sides and none of the other defensemen can really do that. But I will say we did see, like you said, they were kind of taking shifts and taking like rotating who was doing the double shifting. So we saw a little bit of Shea, but Adam Wilsby, I was really, really impressed. Yes. I mean, that's a lot to ask of a young, a rookie. And I thought that he did really well, like held his own. I mean, again, he's certainly not the offensive threat that Roman Josi is. And he never has been. That's not his game. But I thought that he really, played with a lot of poise and a lot of maturity out there, deserves a lot of credit. And Blankenberg as well. I've been impressed with him ever since he's been called up. He's really plays, really, really smart hockey and very aware and very, just aware of his surroundings and able to sort of anticipate plays before they happen. And he's been very impressive to me as well. So all in all, again, it's a lot to ask of these guys, but I think they answered the bell, and Delgaiso too.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you lose Roman Josi, you not only have to replace him on the blue line, you have to replace what he contributes offensively. And they had a stat up at the game, and he has the highest percentage of involvement in team goals of any defenseman in the NHL right now. And you lose Roman Josi, you lose a little bit of, you lose offense. And this is something
all the offense they had for a few games there.
I mean, maybe he has a back injury from dragging this team on his back, trying to get them to win. That's a joke. We're not reporting any. Yeah. We don't. That's not for real. And then again on the power play. And that was one area where I was like, Nashville has to take advantage on the power play. They did not take advantage on the power play. There were some other bright offensive spots, though, Emma, and we wanted to talk about this. You really liked what we saw from that top line, which again was a reconfigured top line because Ryan O'Reilly out with injury, Gus Nyquist out with what we really hope is not a stomach bug. And so you had Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, and Jonathan Marchessault, who scored 2 goals.
He did. He
Yeah.
did. And I have to say, one of us, I believe it was me,
I believe it might have been.
said that Marchessault needed to be a guy who really needed to step up because he was making some very interesting decisions with the puck over the last few games. Again, not the only one. There was plenty of blame to go around, but he was one who stuck out to me as a guy who really needs to step it up, and he did. So
He sure did.
well done. I'm sure that Jonathan Marchessault is one of our Locked On Predators daily listeners,
Yes.
and he felt slighted by my comment. So I'm sure that is 1,000% why he stepped up.
Motivation. That's
Haters
right.
are my motivators. But yeah,
That's right.
I think that, again, what we saw on both of those goals and on Tommy Novak's goal as well.
Let's talk about that fabulous line and goal.
Yes. Well, first, just to stick
Finish
with the
your
top
thought.
line, I think, it's obviously this line kind of cobbled together at the last minute. You already were missing Ryan O'Reilly because he's been out week to week. And then you lose Nyquist right before the game to this illness. And so, okay, you got to elevate. Stamkos has been playing center, and now you got to elevate Marchessault to that top line. Again, everyone's kind of like, oh, how's this going to go? But there was just so much confidence and so much just connectivity and just
Trust.
flow. Yeah. And it
Almost
just flowed
trust.
really well. I mean,
Mhm.
I think it was that first goal. It was Stamkos, kind of carried the puck in, sent it wide to Forsberg. Forsberg sent it back to Stamkos, and then Stamkos kind of dished it in for Marchessault, who just punched it right in. And it's like easy, 1, 2, 3. They could not have made that look any easier. And it's like, where has this been? Because this is what everyone was expecting when you go and sign guys like this. And it's like, it just hasn't been there. And it was just like, oh, well, that's nice. A little fluky for this team, but hey, that's nice. And then they go and do it again. And I mean, it was different. His Marchessault's second goal in the second period, it was him and Forsberg, and Forsberg was bringing the puck in through the zone, and then had that just beautiful silky backhand pass right across the slot. Again, Marchessault doesn't break stride, just punches it in, and it's just like, yes, this is what we've been looking for. It doesn't need to be that hard, because again, those were the kinds of plays that for much of this season, it seems like we've seen that's what should happen, where it's like, okay, yeah, easy, pass it to this guy, or dish it to this guy. But it's like, they'll get the puck into the zone and then either stop or slow down or just make the complete wrong decision, like pass it to the guy who's got 3 defenders on him, or it doesn't make sense. Like this was the time where they actually were doing the things that made sense. It was like, yes, this is how you score goals. And it was interesting because I asked Jonathan Marchessault about it after the game, and he said, yeah, I think we play better when we're like, we keep it simple and we're just more direct with the way that we do things. And I'm like, yes, exactly. Just do the things. Do the things. And he did, and he scored twice. So again, I would like to take the credit for that. But yes, that Tommy Novak as well.
Come on. Tommy Novak, bless his heart. Tommy Novak, I don't think he scored a goal since like October 22nd, and that's off the top of my head. Is that right?
October 22nd.
I should have known that.
Needed one so bad.
Desperately.
And you could tell there was a photo on, I believe, USA Today, because I was looking for photos to add to my post-game story. And it was Mark Jankowski's face after Novak's goal. I don't think I've ever seen him look happier. It's like you can always tell. It's the same thing as like when a guy gets his first NHL goal or something. You can tell it's more fun to watch his teammates' reactions than it is to watch his. And that's kind of you know that Jankowski's aware that Novak
Novak
needs
was
this.
struggling.
He needed this. And also credit to Jankowski because
Great assist.
it was great. I mean, from the three of them. So again, it was Jankowski's passed it to Evangelista, took it wide, sent it back to Jankowski, and then just the no look drop pass, doesn't break stride, and then Novak comes in and just boom,
buries it.
money.
And this is a line. Now I'm going to take a lap here. Anne's taking a lap, y'all. This is a line that I have told you people that to keep an eye on, because this is a line that when you look at advanced stats has been cooking. Hadn't been finishing, but they'd been cooking. And again, they played almost 9 minutes of ice time. This was a line that had 6 shots for, 3 shots against. I really liked that. Now, I will say this, the line of Svechkov, Parson, and LaRue, that line struggled a little bit. Your fourth line, I think McCarron and Sissons and Smith, I think at times maybe struggled a little bit too. But you had 2 lines that showed signs of life. And look, is that enough to win a Stanley Cup? Sure isn't. Is that where the Nashville Predators are right now? Yeah. You got to be where your feet are. And if your feet are in the crap and Nashville skates are in the crap, then you look around and you go, okay, what did we do well to take a step forward? And I think that they did some of those things in this game. But again, come back to they have lost 8 in a row. What does that mean for the future of Andrew Brunette? Well, Barry Trotz talked about that. And friends, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. We'll tell you what he had to say coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at PrizePicks. If you love sports, you are going to love PrizePicks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey or football or any of your other favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here is what you need to do to get started. You can win up to 200 times your money on PrizePicks. You can get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There's no need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. So download the app today, use our code LOCKEDONNHL, and you're going to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. $50 instantly. PrizePicks also offers fun weekly promotions, so keep your eye out for those. Check out all the action at PrizePicks. Again, download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNHL. Check it out at PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, Emma, Barry Trotz before the game hopped on with Jared Stillman 1025 the game and just talked about like where the team is at, because the temperature was, if you lose this game against Calgary Flames, he's out. Don't think he's going out, y'all. Barry Trotz had some interesting comments, and those comments circled around culture and around Andrew Brunette. And look, here's what I want to say Barry Trotz ended the interview with, because I think what people say at first and what people say when they know it's probably going to be one of their last statements, wrapping up an interview, you pay extra attention to those things. And he apologized for not meeting expectations at the very end of the interview, which I was like, okay, props, Barry Trotz. But he talked about Andrew Brunette, and he said that he felt like a lot of people were piling on. But I just don't think that Barry Trotz is going to fire Andrew Brunette. He talked about the fact that you invest in a young coach the same way you invest in a young player. And despite where this team is, there was no indication in this extended interview that Barry Trotz is ready at this point to move on from Andrew Brunette. How do you feel about that after another loss?
I'm still on board with it. I still don't think that firing Andrew Brunette right now is going to solve this team's problems. Is it a conversation to be had? Of course. When you've lost this many games in a row, the conversation needs to be had. But I'm still not there yet on firing him mid-season. I just don't see how that, if anything, if you were going to fire him mid-season, should have done it weeks ago. At this point, it's almost too late, I would think. And by that, I mean, if they're still sticking with him at this point, to me, that's an indication that this is their guy for the rest of the season. Again, are there things that need to be better, that need to change? Of course. But like you said, like Trotz said, this is, you have to work with a young, and you mentioned this on the show earlier about how this league needs younger, fresher coaches, and that's who Andrew Brunette is in this league. And I think that just like with a young player, you need to give them some time to kind of develop and work through things. And I do understand that, I think where a lot of fans are at right now, it's not so much that they think Brunette, I mean, maybe some of them do, but I would venture to guess most of them think that Brunette is not objectively a bad coach, but they're just out of options. It's like, what else do we do? I mean, like, this is so bad right now, and it is bad for sure. And that's, again, why I think it's worth having the conversation. Is this something we should do? But again, if it comes back to no, he's not a bad coach, then I think it's just, a lot of it needs to just kind of, you need to take a step back and look at everything and like a 10,000 foot view. And I know it's hard because it feels like there were so many expectations on this team. We brought in these free agents who are going to make us better and, make us competitive now. And then we're not competitive now. And oh no, like this, we need to fire him now because the clock is ticking. And it's like, well, is it though? I mean, it is, but it's not. Like it again, we've said this before. This was not a do or die year for the Predators.
Right.
It was new and exciting, and you certainly expected more. I'm not saying that anyone should have expected what's unfolding right now, but this was not the year that they needed to have it all together. And so again, firing a coach mid-season now, I think it just kind of would go against what Barry Trotz is trying to do here, because he said in that interview that part of why he brought Andrew Brunette in was to change the culture, to establish a culture and a way of doing things in Nashville, and abandoning that so soon after he started it just, that to me would be very concerning. It would be even more concerning than what's unfolding on the ice right now, to be honest, because that just shows it would be a panic move. It tells me this Trotz guy doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Like,
yeah, he can't read it.
And so I think it's like, you need to have a plan. You need to be committed to the plan, but you need to also be realistic about it and be able to make adjustments and, where they're necessary and when they're necessary. And I truly do trust that Barry Trotz is capable of doing that. And I still agree. I think that it's not the time to fire Andrew Brunette now. Again, I understand that people are not happy with the results, nor should they be. But again, it's just like, you have to give it time to kind of play out a little bit.
You talked about, one of the questions that we see that we're asked is like, what else do you do? You've got, what else do you do? They've lost now 8 in a row. It's a franchise tying record. Here is one of the other things you can do. You can work through it. And Trotz talked about that. And he said, look, we're not done fixing this. And this is going to be a better team coming out on the other side. And I think that there is something to be said, and it is unpleasant. It is not fun. But there is something to be said for remembering one of the options on the table that we don't see often in this league is you work through it. And while that is the option that Barry Trotz is going for, what that tells me, or what I take away from that, is that the players are willing to continue to work through it. And look, this sucks and it should not be so, but as ish vs ish, it is what it is. And this team will be better on the other side of this. And look, I can tell you some things I don't like that Andrew Brunette does. I can tell you some things that I think will make him a better coach. But I like the fact that he has a unique system. NHL could use some coaches that come in and think outside of the box. And is it harder to get players to understand a different approach? Yep, it sure is. But it might be worth working through that to get to the other side of it. And like you said, these players are not on expiring contracts. Is this year probably a bit of a loss? Yeah. I mean, shoot, they play Dallas Thursday. They could set a new franchise record for number of games they've lost in a row. And that sucks. But do you just get through it and learn something from it? What is this team going to learn if you pivot away from it? Like, you may bring in another coach, but you don't know that that coach is going to be, going to necessarily be able to work. And look, there is a whole nother conversation that I'm not even going to get into about who do you bring in and who do you not bring in. And there is not a cut and dry answer, an obvious answer. I got my pick, but there are questions, there's things you have to consider, even if you get the guy I want. So I just think it's an interesting approach. I think Barry Trotz is being patient. I think this is a measured response. And I do think we forget that one of the options in this league, when a team is struggling so bad and you can't move a bunch of players because of contracts and all this stuff, you've got to move the coach. You know what else you can do? You can work through it. And if Andrew Brunette and these players are still committed to working through it, maybe it could turn out better in the end. Maybe. It's not fun. It's not fun.
It's not. I mean, I think of it as like a relationship. If
Thank you. Yes.
If you go through a rough patch, or like you have an argument, that saying that you should fire Andrew Brunette like at the first sign of trouble is like saying that, and you have an argument with your husband and so now you're getting divorced. Like,
right.
What?
It's like, look, I have not been married 25 years just because he cleans up puke.
It's like that. But it's like, that's such a, such a jump. And now listen, before anyone comes at me and says like, it's not like they just lost one game. They've lost 8 games in a row. Look, I get it. It's a bad fight. Good relationships, like, you get in bad fights and they're bad, but you work through them. And if you can't work through them, then that is when it's time to end the relationship and go your separate ways. But you need time to try to work through it first. You need to at least try. And as much time as it took them to get into this mess, it's going to take them time to get out of it. And I think you need to afford them that time.
Yeah. And I think Andrew Brunette had a good point post-game. Marchessault can walk away from this game feeling more confident, feeling more positive. He called this game Novak and Evangelista's best game. He's like, that is what we know they're capable of. They can walk away from this feeling a little bit more confident. Those young defensemen who all of a sudden were thrust into a situation where you were going to play a lot more minutes and you were going to play with somebody that you maybe haven't played with before, and you got to get out there and get after it. They're going to walk away a little bit more confident. If both parties are willing to keep working on this, Barry Trotz does not at this point have a reason to break it up, because this team is probably out of the postseason. I think they have like a 5-point-something% chance of making the postseason. But if they can gain some traction and gain some wisdom and gain some trust and work through this, and the players and the coach want that, you let it ride. So that's what Barry Trotz has said. He has said that's what he's going to do. Of course, there are more games coming up. The next two teams this Nashville team faces, Dallas and Colorado on the road. So big Central Division games coming up. Of course, this week we will preview those games. We'll tell you what some keys to those games are, and we're going to recap whatever happened. So make sure you tune in here. We'll keep you up to date on everything Nashville Predators, and also any news we get on the condition of Roman Josi. I swear, if he has a stomach bug, y'all, I swear, because like my phone was like 12 inches from his face and he might have spit on it. And now I'm like wigging out. Hopefully it's not that. I mean, I don't want it to be anything bad, but dear God, don't let them be barfing in the locker room. On that note, Emma, where can everybody find you and your work? Not that your work has anything to do with barf. I'm just transitioning.
A beautiful transition. A+.
Smooth, baby.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media and K_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio. You can hear me tonight on 102.5 Penalty Box Radio Live. We'll be breaking down this week's games and just some more thoughts about this team and where they're headed as well. Of course, you can always find the podcast online, LO_Predators, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And we're on YouTube. That is going to do it for this game recap. We will be back tomorrow with an all new episode. We hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you then.